Hey folks, it's George Leoniak at New Geometry. And yeah, once again, super excited to be back here sharing another video with you. And today is really going to be like sacred geometry, maybe like you've never seen it before. We're going to be dealing with some of the most classic iconic images like the seed of life, the tree of life, flower of life, all those ones that we see referenced all over. And I've really found ways to represent these in a different perspective as the three-dimensional form. So I'm completely surrounded here by all sorts of props and forms. I've been working really to develop a really sweet presentation on this. So I'm hoping that you'll join me through this one to kind of take a look at sacred geometry and some of the, like I said, the most classic forms in a new way. So let me start the screen share here for you, and we'll jump right into it. While I'm doing this, I did an interview with Frank Chester. I did a lot on the Icosahedron recently, so check that one out. And okay, so here we are. This is the tree of life, right? And this past week, let's just say I did a video maybe a year and a half ago, or a little over a year ago, on the tree of life, trying to figure it out as a geometric structure. And I was primarily doing that based on like the vector equilibrium that, or isotropic vector matrix that Nassim Haramein has spent a lot of time working with. And he has images of how the tree of life fits together and how the iconic images. Well, this past week, I had quite an amazing experience with the tree of life, figuring out how to construct it as a geometric model that I had never seen before. And it actually is going to be foundational to this whole exploration of sacred geometry that we're about to go on. So, this is a 3D object. I have it right here. I'll be showing you all this stuff at the end. This is it in a side view. So the next one, well, we'll show you that more close up. But so first of all, the tree of life has always been two-dimensionally drawn within the seed of life drawing, which are these kind of orangish circles here. I've extended these out. Now, remember, the Phi-based circles are super crucial and critical to all the sacred geometry that I pretty much am presenting from this point out, because I find them to be that revolutionary. And they're the thing that really opened me up to this exploration that I'm about to go on. So these are the Phi-based circles. Looks like there's an extra circle in there that got mixed in. That means that this red circle is in Phi relationship to this next circle out, and this circle out here is in Phi relationship to that circle. So let's just take a look at it, because when you look at the tree of life in this view, and then I turn it to the side, it is more flattened, right? It's kind of, it's kind of squished all of a sudden. And that has a reason for why that's like that. From the front on view, we could see that this is the Kabbalistic tree of life view that is in the seed of life. We'll see the hexagon here, and then we'll see this next hexagon and this triangle, equilateral triangle that's at the base. And then we have all the connecting lines, and it's kind of an incomplete form. It's not really kind of finalized, because you can put two more connection points down here and round it all out and put in a lot of other crossbars to complete it. So it really is just a segment of a larger form. Well, this week I discovered what that larger form is, and it's actually part of this. So this is the tree of life, and it was amazing because after my video with Frank on Monday, we were just hanging out afterwards talking. I was like, let me show you this, Frank. And as soon as I held up this image, I'll be showing you these all closer up. As soon as I held this up to him, first thing he said, that's the tree of life. I mean, he saw it instantly, because this is the same tree of life right here down the center of this. And it's in this pattern, which is the seed of life. I've got all drawings of things coming up in a moment to show you where this fits in. But we could see the little stars, the six-pointed hexagonal stars, the hexagrams, Star of David, often called. We could see all those rotated around. And now here it is, once again, in side form. Now, I could, as you can read here, I'm already saying what this is. But amazingly, I discovered that this isn't just some random geometric form that's been created here that I'm working with in the tree of life, but it's actually part of the Golden Rhombohedron, the obtuse version. Now, in my previous video on the quasi-crystals, I took apart the rhombic tricontahedron to show you, and I'll do this afterwards too, to show you that this is that obtuse rhombohedron right here, this golden rhombohedron that has the golden faces. And I took this whole form apart, showing you how it was created out of acute and obtuse golden rhombuses. Well, I discovered throughout the week, well, right at the heart of all the forms we're going to build off this is this form of the seed of life as the golden rhombohedron. Now, the golden rhombus, we could see here, is in this red rhombic shape. It's sloping gently away from you. You could see from the side here, it's tilted up this way. And it was very flat. And it was like I was describing to Frank the other day. It's like if you took a hexagonal flat surface and you kind of pinched it, and then all of a sudden just pulled it up just a little bit. And I'm going to make another sculpt out of this so I could show you. Then all of a sudden, one of the first things that you'd come to in the golden proportion would be this obtuse golden rhombohedron. So picture a flat plane and then just pinching the top and bottom and just pulling it and going from 2D to 3D. And it has let's just say a 1-inch face here across the width, and across the length here would be 1.618 phi. And that's what makes these golden rhombuses. Now, look, they're golden rhombuses made up out of the whole thing here. So that was just, first of all, kind of mind-blowing, because it's mind-blowing to me because in my apprenticeship, I showed this form to the class on Monday as well. And as soon as I held it up, one of the people in the class was like, that's the isotropic vector matrix, in the Seam-Harriman's thing. And then I turned it to the side, and it was like jaws dropped, because it was like, what? That was not this isotropic vector matrix form. This is just a regular cube, right? With all the crossbars. Now we're dealing with something really different. I got all these forms. I'll have to show you later, unless I decide to jump out. But here are the drawings that go along with this. And once again, they're all based on the Phi-based circles that I've been describing. And here's the tree of life that's showing you one segment, the darker circles, which has 11 of these sephira, they're called. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yep, 11. And now if we took 6 of those, we could just rotate them around and we would create this form here, which is this golden rhombus. So now we could see that this pattern is fitting over the seed of life here, and it's extended out a little bit. It's hard to know what to call this because it actually has 13 circles that aren't touching. Is it a fruit of life? I was trying to figure out how to work that language in, because there's the flower of life, fruit of life, seed of life, egg of life, and I have some other drawings like that. I didn't include them, but I just wanted to show that this pattern with the blue lines that you see here is essentially this same thing right here. Now, you must be wondering, like, okay, well, I always thought that was a cube, or I've seen it described as a cube. So where is the cube within this? Well, the amazing thing is that you can build the cube right off of this seed of life golden rhombus. And it's in the hexagonal cross section. Well, I don't have the cube anymore. I'm going to get to this form later. But anyway, you could see in these pictures that the cube is, here, and the edges are divided into phi ratio. So this is one edge of the cube going down, and this length right here would be 1, and let's just say that's 0.618. And then this hexagon, the golden rhombus, is not just a flat hexagon, it's kind of waving around the edge of the cube as it intersects those phi-based places. Now, when you're looking at the cube from the side, well, this is what it would look like in the cube. You could see the √3 measurement going through the middle. But then if you turn it to face you from the top down view, well, there is the hexagon, created from the golden rhombus. And then there's the cube. But as you can see, whoa, what's going on with the cube? I'm always used to looking at the cube in Metatron's cube with this this bar being straight, vertical in the image. But all of a sudden, wow, it's tilted over the side. And I think, you really just have to kind of have an open mind with where I'm going with this. You gotta just kind of put aside all the preconceived notions that we might have around how these forms interrelate in this this imagery. Because when I work with the Phi-based circles here, something that always at first I didn't really quite understand it, because the way the flower of life has been presented in the past, and I've already gone over how the icosahedron and dodecahedron are not drawn accurately in the flower of life as it exists. So it put me on a quest to find out how to do that. But in that drawing, the cube is straight, the dodecahedron is facing you straight on, the icosahedron is facing you straight on. But all of a sudden, I realized through working and building the forms, well, that the cube is tilted in the dodecahedron. It's not actually straight on. It's actually portion of the side of the dodecahedron. So anyway, this new geometry that I'm showing you accounts for the dodecahedron, because there's 5 cubes in the dodecahedron, not just 1 cube. And this is showing you, and I'll get to this in the next slides, these are 2 points on a dodecahedron. And the dodecahedron will be facing you straight on. That's the 12-sided form that has a pentagon-shaped face. So I kind of jumped a little bit ahead, but this is how the cube is positioned. So this would be the hexagon of the cube. And this is the golden rhombus down here in the red. And now this line is divided into phi. And that's the hexagon that is created in red that's fitting in the black cube here. And there's the tree of life down the center. You could see that that's connected to the edges of the cube at these points. And that's only one of the tree of life images, one of the geometric forms of the tree of life. So the cube is rotated, and let me just say that if this was 0 at the top, this cube would be 22.2 degrees to the right and 37.8 degrees to the left. And that's very, very close to the golden angle, which is 137.5 and 222.5. So this phi division here along this line is creating a kind of phi relationship between the 22.2 and 37.8 on either side of 0 down the middle. So your cube is rotated in that that angle, a 60-degree angle there when you add the two together. So here's the cube rotated. Now I know that drawing was quite busy, so I took out a lot of the lines so you could really just focus on this as this over here. So once again, the black is the cube. Here's the red golden hexagon, golden rhombus down the bottom, golden rhombohedron. And then there's the one portion of the tree of life. And all those light blue lines that you see in this now are 1-for-1 triangles that make this up. And they're not flat triangles. They've got spacing through it on the side. So they're kind of like a layer cake. Remember, we've gone from that flat hexagonal and we've kind of pulled those flat stars that we could see in the 2D apart. And if we keep going, we'll pull them apart to be as large as a cube, but we will slowly do that in that evolution till we get the cube, and then beyond cube as we get greater in the acute versions of the cube, the rhombohedrons. So now we can build a dodecahedron off the cube. And like I said, we usually just build one cube will build one dodecahedron, but the dodecahedron actually has 5 cubes in it. And right here, you could see that this pentagon type face, right here, we're looking at the pentagon face. Right here, there's only one edge of the cube showing up. along here, and that edge continues around to create the rest of the cube. We've just always focused on one, or not everyone, but not many sacred geometry people are interested in know that there are 5 cubes in the dodecahedron. So we've got the star, the pentagram, will be one edge of each of those 5 cubes. So we're really only highlighting one in this build. But if we put the rest of the cubes in there, we'd actually have a number of other rhombic golden rhombohedrons in the middle. And I'll show you at the end that I did go on to build something like that. It gets complex, but I did it for a specific reason, to see what happens when these golden rhombuses start to interact in the middle of these cubes. And it's really cool to show you what occurred when I found out what happens on the inside of all those crossing lines. So stick with me with that. I have it built on my side here. So we've got the dodecahedron. Now the dodecahedron in this image, all of a sudden, remember the cube is rotated here, but now the dodecahedron and the other forms are going to be straight on at you. So the orange here is the dodecahedron. And when I mean straight, I just mean that the equilateral triangle that you would draw in this is, with the base being flat across here. So we've got the vertical line here of the dodecahedron, the 12-sided face, and that's not rotated, but the cube, like I'm saying, is. And remember, this is going across from one corner, or from one point on the pentagon face, going across, and it's only one portion, one of 5 lines that will make up the star inside this. So this is really a really accurate representation of how that cube is contributing to the 12-sided faces, right? So now this drawing, and I'm not going over all the details in this drawing, but as I'm building it out here, I'm showing you the different Phi-based circles and how they're interacting and relating to create this drawing. And this is why this is part of the new sacred geometry kind of designs and patterns to create these forms accurately, because this back edge is 0.618 and this is 1 inch. So I do all the measurements and check it all out to make sure that this template that we're looking at here, which is very, very easy to draw, will give you the points where you need to place the lines to make this drawing. And I've been showing my apprentice group how to do this with really easy, highly easy, accurate results that seems to be easy to follow. But it is a new way of kind of going about these drawings and thinking about it. And if you're really into sacred geometry for a while, this is probably going to be kind of maybe a little bit of a shock to see all these iconic images that we've worked with for so long displayed in this format. So this larger circles that I'm doing here now are also going to give you the points to build the icosahedron. And the icosahedron is the dual form of the cube. So when you put the icosahedron and the cube, so it's a 20-sided form, together, they will cross at that point and give you the rhombic tricontahedron, what's coming up. So the Zone tools didn't give me the ability to put the icosahedron and plug those into the socket. So I've only got the one view for you here, but this would be 3 of the faces and the other ones are sloping away here that you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, you're looking at all the faces in the drawing in the 2D. And once again, the cube is within there. There's the rhombus, rhombohedron down at the bottom. So we've got, now this is the beautiful thing, is like now we've really incorporated the life component, the water, into the Platonic solids, into the flower of life. It's really given it full life to me, that with these Phi-based circles in these patterns of how they've allowed to integrate the Phi-based forms. And really all that needed to happen was including the Phi-based circles, but just rotating that cube so it's in a position where it will create the dodecahedron. And all it is just dividing the outer edges of this larger hexagon, which is going to become the rhombic tricontahedron right here. All it takes is dividing those edges into phi, and you don't have to go around the edge and like calculate it, because the drawing itself, this simple circle pattern, which to me, I'll just call this one the flower of life. I got another flower of life coming up, but this is like it's real blossoming out from this phi-based circles that are showing up here to give you the points that you need. I mean, this is a very simple drawing. All you have to do is create the simple circle in the middle, create this circle in the middle, then start going around and creating the outer circles that you see here to create the outer points, to create the rhombic tricontahedron. Now, this is like one of the big culminating types of forms, because this contains all the Platonic solids in it. It's got 30 faces, 32 vertices. It includes the dual form of the dodecahedron and the icosahedron in the both those duals together, where they're forming a compound where the icosahedron blue line here will cross the orange dodecahedron line, and where they cross, they actually cross and meet, and that creates this flat rhombic face. Now that rhombic face, amazingly, that's the rhombic face of the obtuse rhombic dodecahedron, rhombic rhombohedron. This is that face that I was showing you before. That's the one that's at the center of this cube that's at the base. Now, this one I'm showing you here is a little bit smaller than the other one that was inside the cube, but it just shows that this is part of the fundamental building block of many of these forms, and it's found right within inside the cube along those edges. So, okay, so I went on to build this one, of course, again, too, out of the Zoom tools, and I'm taking this photograph from above so you could see the Star of David pattern, or the isotropic vector matrix, which is not actually the isotropic vector matrix, yet at the same time it is, because you could build the isotropic vector matrix inside the cube that this golden rhombus is within. So from 2D, I've been saying in a lot of my videos, you can't tell the depth or the height of if this is a cube or if it's this golden rhombus. It just so happens to really nicely display the tree of life in a three-dimensional form that's closer to the 2D than the tree of life that's been trying to build it out of the cube, which at that point it's so stretched out, you're building along this column, this long column that's on an angle of √3 through the middle. So, you know, it's all in there. Nothing is excluded from this perspective. It's just another way to view it that shows you the same image, because like when you look at it through the light and the shadow, so this is this same form that just happened to have some nice light that day and had the form and just saw that it would create the pattern. And this is just the 2D representation of the of a drawing, basically, right? Like we could just draw this. It's you know, it's just like this drawing here, pretty much, with all the star patterns in the middle. So we got the 6-pointed star, the hexagram in the middle, and then you could see the one over here, right? So this could be the isotropic vector matrix, no doubt, right? You've seen shadow images of that. Or it can also be an earlier stage of formation of the cube from 2D to 3D, which is this seed of life type of drawing. Seed of life, three-dimensional image, I mean, object, I mean. So, yeah, it's pretty neat. It's been pretty mind-blowing to go through this. And this is just like a small segment of all the pieces of it that I wish I could show in all one video, yet I'm trying to keep it short. And I'm going to really elaborate on this over the next series of videos, because there's so many other components to it that are really worth sharing. But this is kind of a broad overview of where I'm headed with a lot of this material. So like I said, you've got the 6 trees of life in this pattern, and now I've just included all the circles. Now, all these circles that you see here are all in phi relationship with one another, and we could connect the dots and create the tree of life here, or we can create it this way or this way along the the 60-degree angle marks here, 30 degrees around here. You know what, we could create them here. So we got trees of life all throughout this. So, then we go on to this pattern over here, the 6 trees of life, making the seed of life. So this now is the drawing I showed you earlier. Once again, this is this form of the golden rhombohedron. But it's not just one obtuse golden rhombohedron. Each of these are one of 8. This one right at the top, I'll kind of block it out right there. That's just one coming in from the top. And then on the bottom, it's got another one coming where they meet in the middle and touch at the center. And then you've got them built in around the sides, kind of layered in, and their faces are meeting. So it's kind of doing the same thing that a cube would do, 8 cubes coming together to make a larger cube. Well, this is doing the same thing out of the golden rhombuses. And it just really creates the nice, easy geometric pattern to see of the overlapping stars. Triangles, equilateral triangles making the stars. Okay, so I got one last thing here because this morning I was like, okay, well, what's going on with the flower of life, the traditional version of the flower of life, or the fruit of life. Now, the fruit of life, if you built this out, would be much beyond this, but we don't really need to go much further than this because we've got so much going on in it already. Because we've got all the Platonic solids and a number of other forms that we could draw on there. I'm just showing you kind of the big 5, or at least 3, and I'll show you the octahedron and the tetrahedron in a moment. So, this is the flower of life pattern, or the blue circles now, and then we've got all this going on in the middle, which has got the seed of life in here in red. So that's the one I'm building the tree of life off of. And you've got these other circles here, and those are the same size as these blue ones, but this blue one in the middle, this dark, the thick blue line, is part of this flower of life pattern. And really all you need to do is draw this and create these divisions of phi. And it does sound more complicated than I'm making it sound, but this is the culminating kind of image, because this is the same drawing that I'm showing, because back here I put another line out, the circle here, and that has a specific reason for being there, because that point that's on the edge here is what's going to allow you to build out the form to one larger kind of last culminating stage that I'm taking it at this point, is that connects to the flower of life when you build it out at this size with those size circles. And that allows you to move past the rhombic tricontahedron and integrate the rhombic dodecahedron and the rhombic tricontahedron together. So now what does that mean? Well, the rhombic dodecahedron is kind of like the culminating compound form between the cube and the octahedron. So we'll do a little show and tell after this, but we've got the cube, right? 6 faces, and the octahedron has 8. When you put these two together in a compound where these edges are going to meet and create a form, well, that creates this right here. That's called, this is the compound form. You could see they're meeting. This is just like going to create a rhombic face. That's basically a diamond-shaped face. Now, that will, when you connect those edges together, that creates the rhombic dodecahedron. Now, that's 12-sided faces, dodecahedron for 12 and a rhombic face. That's made out of the cube and the octahedron. That's similar to the rhombic tricontahedron. Now, that's the one I've been talking about that has the dodecahedron and the icosahedron in a compound, making the rhombic tricontahedron. So what I wanted to do, and what this really showed me how to do it, was create both of those forms together. And this is the 80-sided form. It may be this pentachus icosahedron. There's not a good drawing online for me to test out to see if it actually is the right height for the vertices, but this form exists, and I'm going to show you in a moment. It's right here. I built it, so it works out to be an 80-sided form built off of both rhombic dodecahedron and rhombic tricontahedron, which means that it contains all the Platonic solids all on these vertices connected together. Just one last thing, because I just felt inspired to put it in here because it could be a whole separate video. But this pattern of the circles here, of just these phi-based circles, incredibly, it will divide the line. There's segments along here where these little segments are going to meet. I have them all identified and pointed out, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way around for 60 segments to divide this circle into 60 segments of 6 degrees perfectly. Now, 60 is a very important number, of course, because 60 minutes in an hour, 60 seconds in a minute, right? And there's so much math, the base 60 mathematics. This is a way, when I drew this drawing, to very easily divide the length, divide this circle into 60 segments. So maybe, you know, we can have a clock face, you know, on your watch that has this awesome pattern with these rays coming out, because this is a way to, for anybody at home, to divide 60 segments into along the edge of a circle, circumference of a circle. All right, so that is the major discoveries over the week. And now let me just show you some of the forms, because it's tough to see them all in that little viewfinder in the right-hand side. So we started off with the tree of life. Well, here's the geometric version of the tree of life in large scale. Now, it's built off of, when you turn it on the side view, really interestingly, you can see the components it's made up of. It actually has just a flat hexagon section that goes through the middle. And then when I turn it this way, this right here, these red struts that you see, that is one of that's one of those golden rhombohedron, right? And now this side is showing you a bit of the golden rhombohedron, but it just ends at the triangle. So you really need 6 of these, like I'm saying, to go around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way around like that, to create that full pattern of this form, which is then the tree of life is within this. And it has from all the different angles, you see it coming across here. Well, that one's at this place, but then the lower one is over here, and that would be coming from the backside, creating that up this way. So that's why this has got 6. And remember, each of these are one of those golden rhombohedron, and one on top and the one on the bottom. So really, really cool. Remember, this is just to visualize, just picture a flat hexagon, grab the top and the bottom and just pull it apart. It's I got to make this form. Frank shared with me how to make this thing, but right now I didn't get a chance to do that for this video. So all I got is these little buckyballs. Now just flatten this little cube out, and then if I just lift it up, at some point along there, we're going to get that until we get to the cube, and then we can get to the acute versions like that, all within the cube. And at points in there, we'll be hitting forms that go through the golden ratio. So remember, this is the golden rhombus. This is 1 to 0.618 straight down along that, on that rhombic face. So this is it in the rhombic tricontahedron. And the cube is in here. I'm going to try and orient it so you could have it facing you straight on. And now this point right here in that blue line, it's coming to here, that's one edge of the cube, and you can see that it's angled, and here's the other one, tilted, you know, it's at that 37.8 degrees tilt. And that then creates, you know, that then allows for this to sit in the middle. Now, remember, I said early on, it's like, well, okay, that's cool, but that's only one plane within this. Like, it's just, well, flat. Well, what's happening with all the other points? Well, this is where it gets really interesting, because I figured out how to make that. I took a lot of the lines out, but basically this is, let me orient it to a view with it so you could get familiarized with it. So we got a triangle going on here, there, and here, and the lower one, it's going to be messy, but this has got all those cubes. I've taken the inner triangles out that would be that triangles that are within this going across. But this is what I want to get to, because we could get lost in that, and it's not easy to describe. Inside this, it creates an icosahedron. So maybe you could see the icosahedron in here. Inside this, where all those vertices meet in that chaos of crossing lines is an icosahedron in blue in the middle. You can kind of, this is part of the bar, there's another back in here. So all those lines within this cube. So basically what I'm trying to say is when you take all those flat segments that I'm calling the golden rhombuses and jam, 4 of them together like that, connected together, what you're going to get is the icosahedron built out of that. So hopefully that was clear. It's hard to show you all these models. I wish I could show you, face to face. So here's the isotropic vector matrix from the view of the vertice of the cube coming towards you, because remember, it's a cube that's already been stretched out to cubism, and now we are looking at it from the vertice, and all these little crossbars are going to give you a very similar appearance to this. The thing is that you're only going to be building with these green struts. You can't incorporate, and this is the thing I think I really got to stress, is that like with the flower of life as it exists, without the phi-based circles, you have no way to create the icosahedron, the dodecahedron, the chestahedron even, without the phi-based circles. And that's what led me to this interpretation, rather than just one that just goes on and on forever, just as a crystalline structure, hexagonal structure that just builds and builds and builds all at the same length unit. So this has got different length units, but all these line divisions are all in phi proportion, with the golden rhombuses. So I think that's important to stress. And then the tree of life, of course, you would think has the life component built into the divisions of phi within it. Okay, now the last thing is just this form, which was the 80-sided faced one. And so you're looking at it now from the triangle on top, a lot of other forms in here. I know there's a lot of lines. And the yellow here to the blue is 3 of the faces. Now, this is only half the form because I wanted to show you a few things on the backside and I ran out of pieces. Anyway, I got to do just a little maintenance here. The zoom tools kind of pop out every once in a while, but you see there's a tetrahedron in here. And I wanted to show you that it's part of this cube, and that's where the other Platonic solids, of course, they're all through it anyway, but this green is a tetrahedron that is connected to the blue cube, and then there's an octahedron in here as well, and that's creating this vertex over here. So I'm just trying to show you that this is one-for-one version of what I was showing you in the drawings, and that the drawings kind of led to this kind of construction. I know it looks kind of chaotic from your perspective, probably with just a bunch of circles and colorful lines. But anyway, okay, so that was quite a bit. I hope you really got a new way to look at some of the sacred geometry. The drawings themselves, which I'm always really find to be critical for me, is to figure out how to draw this so we can incorporate it right into our own artistic expressions with these phi-based circles, because now this tree of life as drawn here is actually like a key, to unlocking all the other forms that I just showed you. Because from this, I could build out all the other drawings that I was just showing you on the computer, and all these three-dimensional forms that I'm showing you, right here. This then is actually that, and that to me is a really, really crucial and critical piece to how our consciousness evolves with the new imagery and how it relates to the actuality of the forms. Now, there isn't really any like artistic expression that I'm putting into this. I mean, I could color this into a lot of different ways. The only artistic expression I'm putting into this is like line color choice, really, for the drawings you're seeing. They're really just pure geometry that is connected to the structures themselves. So that is really the important and critical part is that I'm not putting my own like flavor, like I wish a line would go here because that would look better. I'm just following the blueprint of what evolves, you know, to create the forms and how they nest and link together, you know, how the octahedron and the cube will link together in the tetrahedrons, and how you have 5 in this megaform here. Right now, you've got 5 rhombic dodecahedrons in this, right? You have 5 octahedron in this and 5 cubes within this. And it's the icosahedron, the dodecahedron, and that's only at this scale. Because once you get past this scale, there's all the geometry in all the smaller and smaller holographic levels internally, as well as extensively going outward from there. So anyway, that's the kind of full summary of that. I've got a lot to hash out and some more videos of a little more discoveries along the way. But I really appreciate you watching this video. I'd love to hear your comments of how you relate to some of these images, because some of them may be new ways of looking at this. And if you've been into sacred geometry for a little while, yeah, I'd love to hear what your thoughts on this. And yeah, thanks for watching, and much love and appreciation. Have a great day.